Hello, everyone, and welcome to this, our third episode of Late Night Writing with Enns, or SSH Writers on Writing, where we interview scholars, researchers, and writers across the university about their writing lives, whether they have an obvious process to their work, what advice they can give to students in their field, and whether they like football better than baseball. I am Enns, the SSH Writing Center Coordinator at Nazarbayev University, and with me today is Assistant Professor of Economics, Berk Yavuzoglu. I'm sorry.
Perfect. That is fine. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're very happy to have you. So as I was looking at the stuff that you do in economics, I was struck at how varied it is. So for example, you do research in labor economics, public economics, applied microeconomics, and your interests range from things like factors involved in declaring bankruptcy in Kazakhstan to working past the age of retirement and child mortality in Indonesia. And I just thought it's so variegated. So my first question, did you accidentally fall into these disparate categories, or did you have specific interests in all of them?
So the answer is there is a common denominator, and common denominator is the technique, the methodology we use. So we apply a similar methodology to different problems. In terms of the variety of the topics is, in fact, the labor and public are close in terms of the topics. But yeah, the two things you said, in fact, they are the only kind of research I did, like about bankruptcy and about the Indonesia child mortality and fertility. These are the only topics I do in these fields. The bankruptcy is more financial economics, and the infant mortality and fertility is more development economics. And these both happened because of my co-authors. So in one of them, they just introduced me to the topic, and in both of them, and they asked me if I want to work on it. So I had to do some background reading that I didn't know very well before. But my part in this both project was mostly working on the methodology. So that I use still my skills, just applying to different topics. But it would be very hard for me to work on them alone if I didn't have these people to work with, because I didn't have the enough background to really work on these topics.
Yeah. So is one of them more, it sounds like one of them is more quantitative and then one of them is more qualitative. So do you move between these two areas?
So in economics, we don't have qualitative. In fact, all of them are quantitative. But in terms of quantitative, some of them are more structural and some of them are less structural. So it means that more structural means that it's more closer to the theory. So whenever it is more structural, we have many x and y's and many equations. But these x and y's corresponds to economic terms that we try to prove properties of the problem we are working on. First, we try to abstract the world, writing some equations about what is important in the problem. Then we show prove the properties of the problem. Then we take it to the data, and this is the structural version. So yes, some of these papers, especially the one on bankruptcy, is more structural, that we have lots of modeling before, so it is closer to mathematics in the beginning before we take it to the data. But the others are just quantitative, where we just work with the data and use econometrics to get some estimates and talk about it.
Okay, so then what does research, like published research in economics, look like? Do you have more, is it more narrative? I'm guessing you have like the same structures of papers with the IMRAD, with the introduction, methodology, discussion, that sort of thing. So is it accurate to say?
There is no discussion.
There's no discussion.
We have conclusion. There is no introduction, motivation, then data, then model, then estimation, then conclusion.
And then conclusion.
So we don't discuss much our results. We just, because it is more closer to hard, like in between hard sciences and soft sciences, maybe to say. So it's in between a bit with the humanities and the sciences. So then in our structure, we don't really discuss much before we kind of reach to the end. After what we show, only we say this might have implications like this and like that.
Okay. That could explain why we don't see a whole lot of econ papers in the writing center.
Oh, well, I keep telling them to go to writing center, but they are not. They are not following my advice. In all my courses, even in my syllabus, in all my courses, I say go to writing center.
Yeah, I know it's hard to get there. I know you have to actually make the extra effort. So speaking of your courses and teaching, we have had we have had econ students, especially the graduate students, come to see us in the Writing Center. Can we talk a little bit about what you're looking for? Is there something specific that that your students do in papers that annoys you? Is there a particular error that you find annoying?
So I think NU students are pretty good in writing. Well, maybe I don't know for other disciplines, but for our purposes, they are pretty good. What might be a common problem is they are not very concise. They like writing a lot. Mm-hmm. And this is not due to really page restrictions. So they can write way more than the minimum page restriction, and they are still not concise. I think this is just style they are used to. I think this is the common mistake they make. But other than that, what we like about our writing is it should be very concise. But at the same time, it should be very clear. It should give the message. So this is like a balance. And economics papers take forever to publish. So usually, once you start a paper, you don't expect it to be published in 3 years. So we work on papers a lot. But even though we work on papers a lot, one of our papers will be at most 25 pages, 15 to 25 pages.
Right.
So we summarize everything we did in a very concise way and a very clear way. And if we are not clear, like the readers will be bored and they will just switch to something else. So we care a lot about being clear and there's a flow so people don't get bored. And there are some tactics, let's say, we like to employ in economics, and this is not always in line with the basic language courses, for example. Like, people like to use elegant variation. We don't. We usually like to use the same word over the time to just get the cohesion. Or like for some punctuation, we like to skip some of the punctuation on purpose if it will make the writing more readable. And to that end also, we care a lot about the ending of a sentence. Because we believe the ending of the sentence is what people will remember the most. So we try to put the most important thing to the ending of a sentence.
Yeah.
And we try to connect it using similar words to keep the cohesion.
So that's all very good advice. So I take your point about when you're writing concisely, you also have to balance that with clarity. So you have to be as clear as possible and yet use as few words as you can, as few frilly words as you can, and just basically get the message out. But also the part about the end of the sentence, that's really important too, because we have in English, we have the end weight, right? So the end of the sentence carries the most weight. Just like when you're watching a TV show or when you're listening to a lecture, the part that the last thing that you hear is the thing that's going to stick in your brain usually. So that makes a lot of good sense. Yeah.
And another advice I got from all my advisors so far is that they always told me, read your paper, check by word, and if any word is not necessary, don't include it, just to make it concise.
Did they tell you to read it out loud? That's another good thing. Like sometimes
they didn't tell me to read it out loud. In fact, that is something I think in the profession. I mean, you guys do it, of course, in the writing center, but we don't really teach students how to write well. But if they do research, we expect them to write well. And there is some discrepancy. There is no classes, we teach them how to do mathematics very well or how to do economics very well, but we don't teach them really how to write very well. And maybe with your support at NU we do, but as a profession, we don't do it much.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask you about your writing process now?
Sure.
Let's start with, how about when you were a student? Let's do that. What is it that made you, is there anything like going through the schooling years that sticks out that made you think, hey, I want to do economics?
Well, yes, in fact, there is such a moment, in fact. So I was originally a mathematics student, not an economics student. But then mathematics was a bit too much abstract for me. So in fact, once I wrote a quote from Richard Feynman, and who said, mathematics seems real, but it is not real, and where is this world? So that felt like how I'm really feeling about mathematics. Then I started thinking about maybe I should do these mathematical skills, put my mathematical skills into effort or into action in another field. Then I started considering economics and computer science, but then I ended up in economics, kind of liking about the part or modeling the human behavior. Then I started moving towards economics. Then after a while, I liked it, and then I was thinking about whether I should continue with an academic career or whether I should go to a private sector. Then I did an intern, and I didn't like the private sector much. Then I ended up in academics.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and it does feel like, well, from what I know about it, would you say that economics is kind of like the applied, so how we apply mathematics across human populations?
So, and there are also other interactions or like other papers in the intersection of psychology and mathematics. But I think what is different is whenever we say it is economics, there should be some equations. Right? So telling us the problem about what we are solving exactly. And then that after you are done with your project or while you are after you are done with your derivations, the main issue is to defend your model to other economists. So if you wrote down a good model, you should be able to abstract the word and you should be able to convince people that is really what is going on. But if you miss important elements, no one will buy your derivations or no one will buy your paper, then you will not reach anywhere. So that is the main difference, I think, is to try to write down the word in a bunch of equations.
Okay, and how about, let's go, sorry to keep on going back to this. I know that students are sometimes, they're struggling as they're going through their degrees, and sometimes they feel very self-conscious. Did you have any moments, and as you were going through as a student, did you have any embarrassing moments that, of course, that you wouldn't mind sharing with us, or
Sure. In fact, I have such a moment that was very embarrassing. So I am a Turkish, so for those students who don't know it, and then I studied my undergrad degree in Turkey. And then in Turkey, really, once we want to talk to professors, we just knock the door and enter inside. We don't wait for anyone to say, come in. Right? Then I went to my PhD degree in the US, and I did the same. But then I got an official warning not to do this. And I had no idea about this. I was just applying what I learned so far, and they said, that's not acceptable here.
Did you walk in on your professor doing anything weird, like scratching his armpit or something?
He was just in office. He looked shocked when I entered in the office. The law told me that it was not okay, but later on that the professor passed it to the departmental secretary, and then through departmental secretary I got a warning saying that I shouldn't do it ever again.
Did you have a mugshot in the secretary's office? Well, look out for this guy.
It wasn't a nice moment.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Later on we were in very good terms with the professor, of course, but early on, and they understand that you are coming from different cultures and there might be the consequence of that.
Yeah, and we have that here too at Nazarbayev University, don't we? We have kids, most of our students are from the country, but then we have professors from all over, and we all come with our own preconceived notions about what university should be.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, can we move into, I want to give you two options. So we're just going to ask you what you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for this part of the podcast?
Of course.
Okay. So, what do you prefer? Would you prefer to be at the Maiden's Tower or the Eiffel Tower?
Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower. Okay, would you rather eat steak or eat strawberries?
A steak, for sure.
Would you rather go to a football match or a baseball game?
Football.
Football.
We don't have baseball in Turkey, so I was raised with football.
Do you have a favorite team?
Yes, this is Beşiktaş, a Turkish team.
Okay, all right. What do you prefer in terms of seasons, summer or winter?
Or summer.
Summer, okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee while I'm working, tea while I'm having pleasure.
And would you rather vacation at the beach or vacation in the city?
Or in the beach.
Ah, okay.
Because I was raised in the city, so I was raised in Istanbul, so I got enough of the city. It's better to go to the beach for vacation.
Yeah, and I guess we're kind of stuck here in the summer. Like we haven't really had a vacation this year, this pandemic year.
Yeah, same for me.
Thank you very much, Professor Berk Yavuzoglu.
Thank you very much inviting me, Lori.
We really appreciated you here. We appreciate the advice for writing in economics, and we look forward to seeing you, hopefully face to face when this pandemic.
Hopefully soon.